Hi, Josiah here. Got an unexpected bonus video for y'all. One which I suspect many of the fellas ain't gonna be too keen on. I'm a strong supporter of feminism and pro-woman, anti-rape activism. It's something that's very important to me, and I'm not ashamed of it. I know that many guys online, especially among the gamer community, are not big fans of feminist ideas, and such men will almost certainly take offense to this video. To you sexist men, I offer no apology whatsoever, and if you're not willing to listen with an open mind and at least consider changing your worldview and behavior toward women, I cordially invite you to kick rocks. Run, don't walk, to the unsubscribe button, because if you're an unrepentant misogynist, you're not fucking welcome here. In January 2011, a Toronto police officer publicly stated women should avoid dressing like sluts in order not to be victimized. This is a textbook example of the kind of victim blaming and slut-shaming that plague our society, promoting rape culture and denying justice to survivors. In response to this, an event called SlutWalk was organized in Toronto in April of 2011. Following that first SlutWalk, many other similar SlutWalks began to take place in cities all over the world, protesting victim blaming, slut-shaming, and rape culture. A few weeks ago, the first annual SlutWalk was held in Reno, Nevada, where I live. The event was organized by a group called SexPositive Reno, and I was involved in helping to plan it. I agreed to speak on the topic of men challenging other men about misogynistic speech, rape jokes, and the like. My speech was quite a bit lengthier than it probably should have been, but it seemed to be well received. Some requests were made for me to make it available online in some form, so I've decided to record myself giving the speech again and post that recording here. It's excessively long, highly confrontational, and very likely to make men feel uncomfortable or angry. It's very much not the sort of thing that my normal viewers are looking for from my channel. Nevertheless, I'd like to challenge you gentlemen who watch my videos to take the time to listen to what I have to say in this speech and consider it carefully. Without further ado, here's the speech, just as I presented it at the Reno SlutWalk 2014. Hey everybody, name's Josiah, and I'm here to say some controversial shit. I'm going to be unapologetically profane, and there's going to be a lot of frank and unfiltered discussion about rape, so consider this your trigger warning. I'm not going to bore you with my credentials or my cred. I'm just going to get right into pissing people off. Men. Yeah, I see some men here today. Good to see you guys. I'm primarily here to speak to you, so listen up. How many of you guys are sick to fucking death of women getting raped? I know I am. Shit's gotten out of hand, honestly. I mean, statistics vary depending on who you ask, different definitions of rape and so on, but it's a pretty damn appalling number no matter what. Anywhere from 1 in 6 to as many as 1 in 3 women get raped during their lives. And since so many rapes are never reported or swept under the rug, the real number has got to be even higher. In other words, women are getting raped all the damn time, and we sure don't seem to be doing a whole lot to make it stop. But I think I just might have a modest proposal as to how we, as men, can fix this shit. So I've been giving it a lot of thought, really racking my brain to come up with a way to prevent all this rape. I mean, we see women getting themselves raped every day, making bad decisions, and no matter how much we try to tell them how to avoid getting raped, they just keep on doing the same dumb things. I think we've given it a solid, honest effort, really, trying to teach women how to dress and act and what not to do in order to keep themselves from getting raped. But it just ain't sinking in. Despite our best efforts to educate women in how to protect themselves, they just continue to get themselves raped on a near constant basis. What can we do? I was thinking about it a whole lot, trying to come up with some way to convince women to stop doing shit that causes them to get raped. But I got nothing. So this totally crazy idea kept popping into my head now and then. But it was just way too radical and ridiculous, so I kept pushing it out of my mind. Eventually, though, I realized that I just couldn't come up with anything else. So I started to seriously look at my insane idea and ask myself, could this possibly work? I mean, it's gonna sound totally nuts when I tell you. It's super extreme, and honestly, it kinda goes against the whole fabric of what our society is about. Might even be considered un-American. But bear with me and just think about it for a second, because it might, just might, be crazy enough to work. What if, instead of trying to just tell women how to avoid getting raped, which as we've seen, ain't working, what if, and don't freak out because I know this is a totally unprecedented and possibly dangerous idea, but what if we fucking tell men to stop fucking raping people? What if we took a stand instead of standing idly by? What if we took some fucking responsibility as men, as sons and brothers and cousins and friends and co-workers and teammates and boyfriends and husbands and fathers and uncles and neighbors, as citizens, as human beings? What if we took a look inside ourselves, at our relationships, at the other men in our lives, at our toxic ideas of manhood, at our culture that permits, encourages, and paves the way for rape to happen? What if we took it upon ourselves to look rape culture right in the eye and say, oh hell no, no more, this shit has to fucking stop, now? Did I piss you off with that satire bit in the beginning? Good. You should be pissed off about this. You should be goddamned outraged. I wanted to get your attention. Now that I have it, let's get serious. Men, are you listening? Because up to this point, most of us sure as hell haven't been. Women are not just getting raped. Rape isn't just something that other men are doing. Rape is a global, universal problem across every segment of society. And it's not just someone else's fault. It's our fault. Yeah, I said that. You, and you, and you, and you, and me. We're all responsible for this shit. And until we take responsibility, until we hold each other accountable, until we stand up and fight for justice, men are gonna keep doing this horrific, inexcusable, unspeakably fucking evil thing called rape. It happens because we allow it to happen. Rape isn't just a women's issue, gentlemen. It's a fucking men's issue. It's something that we do and something that we need to stop. What I want to talk to you about today is the absolutely vital importance of men challenging men. You hate the way women are treated in the world today? You want to make a difference, change things, stand up for social justice, be a feminist ally, stop being part of the problem? Great. Here's how. The number one most important thing you can do, the thing you must do to be an ally to the struggle of women for equality, security, and freedom is this. Listen to women. Nothing matters more than that, yet that is often exactly the thing that well-meaning so-called pro-feminist men fail to do. So start there and keep doing it. But second only to listening to women, the key type of action you can take in this world to bring about the kind of change we need, specifically in this case to stop rape, is this. Challenge men whenever they act or speak in sexist, misogynist, woman-bashing, abuse-glorifying, rape-supporting, rape-justifying, rape-encouraging, rape-tolerant ways. Whenever you nod or laugh or even stand by in silence, you give your consent to those anti-woman actions or words. You join with the rest of the men in our society in rubber stamping the hateful, toxic ideas that lead to men thinking that it's okay to denigrate, abuse, or even rape women. Men are regularly spewing forth hateful, harmful, rape culture enforcing things everywhere you go. Men in your family are doing it. Men you work with are doing it. Men you're friends with are doing it. Strangers are doing it. Publicly, constantly, and almost entirely without consequence or dissent. They joke about rape, about abusing women, about objectifying women, about the inferiority or foolishness of women. In most cases, no one challenges them. When they are challenged, it's usually by a woman, not another man. Think of how many times you have stood by in silence and let such misogynistic words pass without raising your voice in disagreement. I know that for myself, it has been far too many times. We cannot remain quiet about this, men. We can't. It's too important. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "In the end, what will hurt the most is not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." Do you care about women? Do you want to see an end to rape? If you do, stop being silent. Open your mouth and say no. Albert Einstein said, "If I were to remain silent, I'd be guilty of complicity." Every time we allow other men to express misogynist views or joke about rape unchallenged, we make ourselves accomplice to the sickeningly vast number of rapes that occur every hour of every day. 78 rapes per hour according to one statistic, and that's just in the United States alone. Given how many countries are plagued by significantly higher rates of rape than our own, the worldwide figure must be staggeringly, unthinkably huge. How many rapes are happening right now as I sit here speaking? When we sit idly by and listen to men say or laugh about things which encourage or excuse rape while we remain silent, we are in essence making the statement, those rapes are all right with me. Rape culture is real. I hear men mock this idea all the time, claiming that there's no such thing as rape culture. They say that sexist language, misogynistic remarks, and even rape jokes have no real connection with actual rapes occurring, that the very idea is ridiculous and laughable. But that's a filthy fucking lie, a desperate denial that is in itself a part of rape culture and proof of how serious and widespread this toxicity is. So what is rape culture? One solid definition from the Marshall University Women's Center is as follows. Rape culture is an environment in which rape is prevalent and in which sexual violence against women is normalized and excused in the media and popular culture. Rape culture is perpetuated through the use of misogynistic language, the objectification of women's bodies, and the glamorization of sexual violence, thereby creating a society that disregards women's rights and safety. A longer, better, much more complete, descriptive, and visceral explanation of rape culture can be found in the article Rape Culture 101 by Melissa McEwen on the excellent feminist blog Shakesville. Google that shit. Read it. All of you. I wish I had time to read the entire thing to you, because it's powerful and eye-opening. But I'm just going to repeat one small part of it now. She writes, rape culture is telling girls and women to be careful about what you wear, how you carry yourself, where you walk, when you walk there, with whom you walk, whom you trust, what you do, where you do it, with whom you do it, what you drink, how much you drink, Whether you make eye contact, if you're alone, if you're with a stranger, if you're in a group of strangers, if it's dark, if the area is unfamiliar, if you're carrying something, how you carry it, what kind of shoes you're wearing in case you have to run, what kind of purse you carry, what jewelry you wear, what time it is, what street it is, what environment it is, how many people you sleep with, what kind of people you sleep with, who your friends are, to whom you give your number, who's around when the delivery guy comes, to get an apartment where you can see who's at the door before they can see you, to check before you open the door to the delivery guy, to own a dog or a dog sound-making machine, to get a roommate, to take self-defense, to always be alert, always pay attention, always watch your back, always be aware of your surroundings, and never let your guard down for a moment lest you be sexually assaulted, and if you are and didn't follow all the rules, it's your fault. Rape culture is real, guys. And it's totally fucking bullshit. And what it does is open the door for rape to happen. Turn men and boys into rapists and make people think that rape is okay. Or sometimes okay. Or sometimes justified. Or sometimes excusable. Or not a big deal. Or funny. Or just something that happens. Or inevitable. Or the fault of the victim. Or anything else besides what it is. Always wrong, always abhorrent, always unacceptable, always serious, always devastating, and always, always, always the sole fault of exactly one and only one person, the rapist. Rape culture muddies the waters, and quite simply, makes rapes happen. If you're only going to stand up against one form of social injustice in this world during your lifetime, stand up against this. One of the superstar hallmarks of rape culture is victim blaming. And really, that's the core issue that this SlutWalk is about. How fucking ridiculous is victim blaming in rape cases? Well, let's see. The last time you were driving down the street and some drunk driver, blitzed out of his mind, hurtled through a red light and plowed into your vehicle, did anyone say anything to you like, well, did you slow down and look both ways carefully before proceeding through the green light? What were you thinking, driving 43 in a 40-mile-an-hour zone? What? You were driving at night? Why would you do that? I can't believe you drive a black car. Talk about a death wish. How loud did you have the radio turned up in your car anyway? Hold on, since you were the stone-cold sober one, shouldn't you have been able to react in time to avoid the drunk guy? Have you even taken a professional-grade defensive driving course to learn how to control your vehicle precisely in crisis situations like this? Sounds to me like you were just asking to get in a wreck. No, nobody says any of that shit because it would be totally fucking absurd, since we all know damn well that it's the drunk driver's fault. And if you think about it, you'll notice that in most other crimes, the victim is never blamed, and excuses aren't made for the perpetrator. When I was younger, I robbed a bank and went to prison for it. And no one made the claims, well, if they didn't want to be robbed, they shouldn't have had so much money in one place. If they didn't want to be robbed, they should have had a security guard. If they didn't want to be robbed, they should have had all the tellers behind bulletproof glass. No one said anything stupid like that because it was crystal fucking clear to everyone, myself included, that the only party to blame was me, the offender. So why the hell do we go to such vigorous and twisted lengths to excuse, defend, and draw attention away from rapists? And to vilify and degrade rape survivors? 2 words: rape culture. So when you hear other men joking about rape, or joking about violence against women, or joking about the inferiority or subjugation of women, or blaming rape or domestic violence victims, or using misogynistic language like calling women bitches, hoes, sluts, whores, or any number of other slurs, or denigrating women or femininity in general, or gay bashing, or hating on trans folk, or mocking feminism, or spouting off men's rights activist bullshit, or spouting off pickup artist bullshit, or in any other goddamn way demeaning, dehumanizing, or marginalizing members of any oppressed group, because this shit's all connected, believe that. Know that you're watching another brick being laid on the walls of rape culture. Another small reinforcement of the status quo that allows so many women to be raped and abused and offers them so very little justice for it. Did I mention that only 3% of rapists, only 3 out of 100 rapists ever serve so much as a day of prison time? Yeah. Tell me again how rape culture doesn't exist. You want to be a decent guy? Want to help out with the cause of feminism? Or even just the cause of fucking humanity? You gotta start challenging other men when they say this shit. All the time. Make your dissent known. Don't let them go on thinking that it's all just okay and other dudes agree with them. This is so important for 2 reasons. The first reason that it's so critical that we stand up and speak out against these things is that rape and violence against women in general is completely fucking horrible. Nothing is so traumatic, so damaging, so obscenely inhuman. I've never been raped or raped anyone, so I'll admit to having less than a total understanding of it. But I've seen and heard enough to be thoroughly, to the marrow of my bones, disgusted and enraged by it. A man broke into our apartment and raped my mother when I was 3 years old, and I was present. I don't have any direct memory of the event that I can recall, but for many years I had recurring dreams and hallucinations of an unreasonably terrifying male figure appearing in various places to assault me. Years later, when I finally mentioned this fact to my mother, she told me that the physical description of the man from my nightmares exactly matched the appearance of her rapist. So even though I didn't remember it happening, it had still managed to traumatize me in some way. My mother herself has never been the same, and to this day carries deep psychological damage, pain, and fear. Her nervousness about men and about potentially hazardous situations and her general lack of sense of personal security at any time could be fairly called extreme. This has severely limited her freedom in life, caused her difficulties at every job she ever held, and strained or outright ruined every relationship she's had with others. For a long time, I just thought she was neurotic, crazy, unreasonable. Eventually, I came to understand that she is the way she is because of what that rapist did to her, not because of anything she chose. So when I say that rape is horrible, I'm not fucking around. I dated a girl for a little while who had been repeatedly raped as a child by not only her father, but also her uncle. She was deeply scarred, but somehow she came through it all and was as tough as nails, a survivor who carried her pain bravely and managed to make her life work despite the unthinkable horrors she'd faced. But then she was raped again, viciously and violently, this time by a longtime boyfriend whom she loved with all her heart. It was too much, and so she fell into a permanent depression and severe heroin addiction. It was sometime after that when I became involved with her. And the degree to which she was broken can't be overstated. I wanted to help her, which was foolish, as she was clearly beyond my ability to help. But I did make her feel a little safer part of the time, and eventually I was even able to help her kick her drug habit. I thought she was possibly making progress, about to start opening up. I had high hopes. But then her father tracked her down and came to visit her. First time she'd seen him in many years. Her father, the rapist. I came to see her one day, just after she'd finally given me a key to her apartment. and found her dead of a massive heroin overdose. Beside her lay a suicide note with my name on it, and the most heartbreaking words I've ever read contained within. The men who had raped her turned out to be her murderers too. So when I say that rape is horrible, I'm not fucking around. I spent 4.5 years in prison for robbing that bank. And yeah, there was definitely rape behind those walls. Not as much as some TV shows might depict, but still plenty. The first permanent facility that I was sent to was the prison in Buena Vista, Colorado, a place still known as Gladiator School by convicts throughout the CDOC. My first cellie there was serving 18 years for murdering his best friend, and among the few bits of instruction that he offered me when I moved in was revealing where he had his shank hidden along the top of the sliding barred door to the cell, in case somebody comes up in here and you need it. I'd only been there a few days when, just after lockdown and lights out one night, an altercation could be heard in the cell right next to ours. The cells had no front wall, only bars, so sound carried easily from one to another. At first it was an argument, then it was a fight, with all the banging, tumbling, crashing, grunting sounds that become so familiar in places like that. Eventually one of them had clearly won the fight, and then the loser was taught a lesson about the wages of disrespect. There were different sounds after that, awful and sickening, as it was clear to everyone listening what was happening. The victim's whimpers and sobbing were the most torturous sounds I've ever heard a grown man make. It went on for an appallingly long time. The next day, and every time I ever saw him again after that, the young, strong man who'd lost the fight walked around like a zombie, eyes downcast, expressionless, as silent as he could be, submissive and without any sign of personal will. Before that, he'd been loud and cocky, grinning, laughing, bold, full of personality. Even when I saw him again, nearly 4 years later, at an entirely different prison on the other side of the state, he was still just a hollow, broken shell, never smiling, barely speaking. He'd stolen a car, and his sentence, apparently, was a complete shattering of his sense of self. So when I say that rape is horrible, I'm not fucking around. In my life, I've had the privilege, and sometimes the burden, of having listened to a great many girls and women tell me their stories. Not just the surface level shit, but the deep shit, the painful, hidden things that they usually keep buried. If you haven't experienced a lot of that, let me tell you, it would completely shock you to know just how many girls and women have been raped, molested, or otherwise sexually abused in their lives. It would horrify you. It would break your heart and haunt you and keep you up at night. Most of them carry it so well, so bravely, saying nothing, bearing those private scars with most of the people around them none the wiser. If you knew just how many of the women that you already know have been traumatized by men because of misogyny and rape culture, you'd want to spend the next year of your life just apologizing and asking them how you could help. And the next couple of years after that, putting on a fucking Batman suit and going all vigilante on every rapist you could find. If you've already spent a lot of time listening to women, then you already know. And I imagine you're already good and pissed off about it like I am. The second reason why it's essential that men challenge men on sexism and rape culture is that they will listen to us. Ever watched men joking about rape or saying other misogynistic shit, and then a woman speaks up and tells them it's not okay? Seen what happens most of the time? Yeah, the dudes blow her off, laugh at her, mock her, insult her, discount her arguments, tell her she's overreacting, tell her she's being emotional, call her a feminazi, and generally try to shame or intimidate her into silence. Even when it's a much more polite group of men who largely adhere to political correctness or workplace professionalism, or perhaps even a veneer of pseudo-feminism themselves, they still don't listen to her. When women confront men about sexism or rape culture, for the most part, men just don't hear it. It goes in one ear and out the other, usually with a self-satisfied chuckle. Now sure, a lot of the time, men are still going to laugh and mock and contradict what you say when you challenge them about their misogyny. They're going to call your masculinity into question, call you a fag or a pussy or a bitch, call you a white knight, say that you've been suckered by feminist bullshit. They'll do whatever they can to not take you seriously, and they'll do it loudly. But guess what? On some level, to at least a small degree, they do take you seriously, just because you're a man. We enjoy a whole lot of privileges as men, advantages and freedoms and powers that women just don't have because they're not men. As feminist allies, or just as all-around decent fucking dudes, it's important that we find ways to turn our male privilege around and use it on behalf of the oppressed. One of our best privileges in this regard is our ability to speak and be heard by men, inside the inner circles of men, within the peer group of men, coming from the same level of perceived authority and importance as men. This is an enormous advantage, and frankly, it's incumbent upon us to use it to advocate for those whose voices can't be heard in the places ours can. When men say ugly, misogynistic things, when they joke about rape or blame victims, when they perpetuate, even celebrate rape culture with their words, and no other man speaks up in opposition to what they're saying, they get just another confirmation in their minds that what they're espousing, that this toxic shit they believe, is fine and true and accepted. They get one more thumbs up saying, other dudes feel the same way about this. They're on your side. They agree. So they continue to assume that they're on the right track and that they will gain, or at least not lose, social status among their peers, i.e. men, by speaking and acting according to this poisonous misogyny, and even become more entrenched in the sexist pro-rape worldview. This directly leads to rape. All of these guys who are raping, where do you think they're getting the idea that what they're doing is okay, that it's acceptable, that they can get away with it? Rape culture. Men backing them up, agreeing, laughing, or at least not dissenting when they talk about this shit, when they joke about it, when they make light of it, and make denigrating women a means of entertainment and ego boosting. But if other men challenge them on this, instead they get a little mark on the other side of the tally sheet, a little seed of doubt, a small voice that begins to whisper in their head, not all men agree with this. Some guys say it's wrong. Maybe it is wrong. And maybe it takes a whole lot of those instances before they start to really think about it and change their mind. But the thing about drops in a bucket is, eventually they do fill the bucket. Just keep those drops coming. Be consistent, be firm, be honest, and keep speaking up. Every time. You'll be surprised to see how powerful even a single persistent voice of dissent can be. Plus, you'll also find that within each group of men, there are already others who don't really agree with the rape culture status quo either, but they're just afraid to speak up themselves, or don't think it would do any good. Once you start turning the conversation that direction, once you show the courage and strength to stand up for what you believe in, you'll inspire other men who have been silent up until now to also speak up. And that's when shit starts getting transformative. Step up, men. Challenge and confront other guys when they spew this disgusting shit. Be a leader. The world's full of followers, spineless drones just going along with the status quo, believing in whatever the majority tells them. Most men are followers too. They're just waiting for someone to show them, to lead them, to show them a better way, to correct the tragically flawed belief structure that they've been force-fed. So lead. Be the lone voice in the wilderness if you have to. Open yourself up to the ridicule, the conflict, the loss of status, maybe even more serious consequences. Take it and never let it shut you up. That's what a leader does. And if you do this and don't back down, other men will hear you. They will follow your lead, and you will make real change happen. To be a leader, you have to have men's respect. When they respect you, you can call them out, challenge their worldview, criticize their actions, and tell them their shit does, in fact, stink. And they will listen. How do you earn respect from men who are totally opposed to the things you're saying? By being brave enough to take a stand. By being unflinchingly honest. By not backing down or giving up. By being consistent in practicing what you preach. And, most importantly, and I'll keep it real here, this is the tough part, by being ready and willing to suffer whatever consequences or make whatever sacrifices go along for standing for what you believe in. I know that's a tall order, but I promise you it's worth it. And it does work. I know it works because I've done it. I've been doing it for years, and I've seen incredible things happen. And not just with frat boys and laid-back hipsters and internet geeks like me. I stood up for my truth throughout my prison time. Challenged and confronted and refused to acquiesce to the roughest, hardest, most violent and dangerous men that you or I are ever likely to know. A lot of them didn't like it. I was threatened with everything from beating to rape to death. But no one ever touched me. I never had to fight, not in 4.5 years. Not because I was some kind of obvious scary badass, not because I had an intimidating rep, not because I had connections, and not even because I was some kind of clever manipulator or brilliant communicator, but because truth and justice have power. They call to a basic yearning in every human being, and when you know them and stand for and in them, and are so committed that you refuse to recant in the face of any threat or possible loss, you inspire respect, even from those whom society deems its worst. I wish I could tell you the whole story of my prison time, my amazing experiment with truth, and all of the absolutely unbelievable things that happened there. But that would take far too long. I can tell you that I was friends with murderers, robbers, thugs and thieves of every description, con men, drug dealers and smugglers and manufacturers, pimps, bangers, shot callers and OGs, and yeah, even a few rapists. I hung out with and was accepted by every clique, every racial group, a feat which is almost always impossible in the pen, and which was entirely unique to myself during the time I spent at the facilities I was in. I was the one white boy playing basketball with the brothers every day, the one loco güero on the soccer field with the Chicanos and the Paisas, the one race traitor who could actually argue with the white supremacist Peckerwoods about racial prejudice without getting his head cracked open. The guy who could have the trust and the respect of the COs without earning the suspicion and derision of his fellow convicts for it. I never had to fight, and I never took a step back from speaking my truth and calling people on their shit. I changed minds. I changed behaviors. I changed the very feeling in the air in some of those places. And I changed lives. Not because I'm somehow awesome or brilliant or wise or talented. Hardly. But just because I made a choice. I didn't do anything that any other dude couldn't do. I just chose something that most other men don't choose. If it worked there, with some of the scariest motherfuckers around, it'll sure as hell work with the bros on your team, the guys around the job site, the fellas at the poker game, and all the other men that you have the access and potential to influence in a positive way. So do it. So step up, gentlemen. No more excuses. No more fear. No more apathy. Get mad. Get passionate. Be a leader. In the immortal words of Mahatma Gandhi, be the motherfucking change that you want to see in this goddamn world. Slight paraphrase. When dudes be letting that rape culture, woman-bashing bullshit fall out the side of the neck, open your face up and sing, brothers. Say, nah, son, that poison you be slinging ain't no good and I ain't trying to hear it. You're wrong, so wrong, and ain't nobody got time to listen to them lies. Women are our equals in every way. They deserve just as much respect as any man. They ain't here to please you or serve you or be an object for you to possess. And there ain't a damn thing funny about rape. And if you think there is, you're either a child or a fool, but you sure can't call yourself a man. The time for silence is over, men. Come on, guys. This is the best way you can fight rape and violence against women and violence against other oppressed groups. Be the start of your own little viral movement, converting a few men around you and pushing them outward to spread the idea further. Let's chop down rape culture at its roots. Let's dig it right out of the hearts and minds of men and burn that shit. You can influence other men, and like ripples in a pond, soon enough the whole damn surface of the water will be all disturbed. Women are already out there fighting the good fight, taking the risks, making the sacrifices, eating the shit, facing the backlash, and not giving up. They've been doing it for a long time now. What the fuck have we been doing, men? Don't you think it's time we got in the game? Don't you think it's time we got on the right team? Do it. Starting now, today, make a pledge to yourself, to the women in your life, to the whole world, that you're going to stand up against rape culture and misogyny, that you're going to challenge and confront and vocally disagree with men when they're saying or doing sexist, rape-promoting things. If you don't have the guts for that, you just need to get madder about what's happening to women in this world. Start listening to the women around you more. If they'll open up and tell you their stories, listen well and let yourself absorb it all. Feel it all. Let them break your heart. Go online and read the countless stories of women describing the rapes and abuses they've endured at the hands of men. Feel it all. Let it break your heart. Read the comments on any story or article or video anywhere online about rape or misogyny. Read the endless vitriol, the almost unimaginably awful things that so many men write in response to any suggestion that women are suffering or rape is a problem. Feel it all. Let it break your heart. Just keep seeking this ugly truth out and taking it all deep inside you. When it hurts you enough, you'll start to get angry. A fire will start to burn in your belly, and soon enough you won't be able to stay silent. You'll be full of too much passion to let this shit slide any longer. When that day comes, you won't need to be brave. You won't fear the consequences, because that fire inside you will make it impossible for you to not speak out and stand up against this cancerous evil in our society. Then you can start lighting other men's fires. Then, eventually, we can burn this whole rape culture to the motherfucking ground. I'm calling you out today, gentlemen. Every one of you who can hear my voice. I'm challenging you. Take this seriously. Make the choice. Be a leader. Start speaking out and speaking up, because if you don't, you're part of the problem. There's only two teams and no middle ground. Neutrality is not an option, men. If you're not on team anti-rape, then you're on team rape. Get on the right damn team, guys. Do it today. Do it now.